Shalom from Israel to all of the Daystar viewers around the world. I'm Moshe Bar Tzvi, the producer and founder of Israel Now News. We at Israel Now News are dedicated to bringing you the full story and the truth about Israel from Israel. It's written in the Holy Bible when David said in Psalm 25:5, "Lead me in your truth and teach me, for you are the God of my salvation. For you I wait all the day long." And God says in Zechariah 8:16, "These are the things that you shall do. Speak out the truth to one another. Judge with truth and judgment to peace in your gates. And always search for the truth, and the truth shall set you free." John 8:31. I hope you enjoyed the program. God bless you from Jerusalem. Shalom, shalom.
Welcome to Israel Now News. I'm Yochanan El Rom.
And I'm Aaron Viner.
In our top story, Iran is advancing its ballistic missile program. Despite Tehran's facade of negotiating with the P5+1 nations over its rogue nuclear weapons program, the UN panel of experts have released their report, which states that Iran continues to make huge strides on its capability to deliver a nuclear warhead on a ballistic missile. This activity by the hardline Islamic Republic was specifically banned by a United Nations resolution in 2010, but Iranian officials have remained defiant, insisting that their missile program will not be interrupted.
The U.S. and Israeli armies joined forces for a joint missile defense drill in Israel last week. More than 1,000 American soldiers participated in the biannual exercise that was dubbed Juniper Cobra. According to U.S. Secretary of Defense Chuck Hagel, this was the largest drill for U.S. troops under the European Command. Hagel said that the exercise employed Israel's entire rocket and ballistic missile systems, including the Iron Dome, Arrow, and David Sling, assets that he said the United States is proud to have helped Israel finance and develop. The defense chief went on to say that Juniper Cobra demonstrated the cooperation and commitment shared by both militaries, demonstrating that America's commitment to a strong and secure Israel will never be anything but complete and unwavering.
A Sudanese court has sentenced a Christian woman to death for refusing to renounce her faith. 27-year-old Miriam Yahya Ibrahim was born and raised a Christian, but Sudanese law considers her to be Muslim by default because she was born in Sudan. Her marriage to a Christian man is not recognized by the Sudanese government. Therefore, she has been accused of adultery and has been convicted of converting from Islam, a crime punishable by death. Ibrahim has been held in prison with her 20-month-old son since February. She's 8 months pregnant with her second child. Earlier this month, the judge sentenced her to 100 lashes and death by hanging. A spokesperson for the International Christian Concern, a Christian watchdog organization, said, "We grieve at the sentencing to death of a mother pregnant with her second child for the expression of her faith and a legal marriage to a practicing Christian." The ICC fears Ibrahim could be the first of many more Christians to suffer under an increasingly radicalized Sudanese government intent on enforcing Sharia law throughout the land.
The Anti-Defamation League has released its findings of a global survey reflecting that the Middle East is the most anti-Semitic region on earth. It is of great concern that 93% of Palestinians hold staunchly anti-Jewish sentiments. The report also documented that the Palestinian-controlled areas of Judea, Samaria, and Gaza are hotbeds of both anti-Semitism and anti-Israel propaganda. In his weekly address to his cabinet, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu made a direct correlation between the Palestinians' beliefs and the unceasing incitement by the Fatah government in Ramallah and its new partner Hamas. Netanyahu said that the overwhelming finding that 93% of Palestinian adults hold anti-Semitic views is the direct result of the authorities' unrelenting campaign of distorting the image of the State of Israel and the Jewish people. He added that such despicable beliefs find expression in the increased activity that the Palestinians permit in Judea and Samaria for the Hamas terror organization, which directly and openly calls for Israel's destruction. Because anyone who sees the establishment of the State of Israel and its continued existence as a disaster clearly does not want peace.
The Israeli Electric Company has announced its decision to sue the Palestinian Authority for $153 million in unpaid debt. After years of providing the PA with electricity without being paid, and after months of intensive negotiations failed to settle the debt, the IEC has filed a lawsuit against the PA to the tune of $153 million. The negotiations, conducted by a third-party Palestinian company, broke down when the PA announced that it was joining forces with the Hamas terrorist organization, which has vowed to destroy the Jewish state. The Israeli government has ruled that the IEC cannot cut off the power to the PA, which in effect forces the company to provide the Palestinians with electricity free of charge. Israel has attempted to offset the exorbitant debt to the IEC with taxes it has collected on behalf of the PA, but the electric company claims that it cannot continue to function with such a large deficit.
Hundreds of Pakistani Christians gathered to protest their government's ban on travel to Israel. Christians at the demonstration said that Karachi's steadfast refusal to allow its citizens to visit the Jewish state infringes on their rights to perform pilgrimage to the holy city of Jerusalem. Pakistan's official state religion is Islam, and its legal system is heavily influenced by Sharia law, which leaves the nation's 2.8 million Christians under the status of dhimmitude. That means that their religious freedoms are heavily limited, and Christians are routinely attacked by Islamists. According to a report released by the U.S. Commission on Religious Freedom, Pakistan represents the worst situation in the world for religious freedom, citing incidents of the abduction of non-Muslim women, often involving rape, their forced conversion to Islam, and forced marriages to Muslim men. The report noted that the Pakistani government fails to protect minority groups from violence and persecution.
The Israeli Knesset is considering legislation which would allow Jews and Christians to pray on the Temple Mount. If passed, it would be the first time that Jews would be allowed to pray at their holiest site in 2,000 years since the destruction of the Second Temple. The Muslim Waqf, which controls the Temple Mount, forbids Jews and Christians from praying there and also heavily restricts their access to the holy site. These groups feel that Israel must extend the freedom of worship to the Temple Mount area and protect their right to regular visitation. The mere discussion of shared sovereignty of the Temple Mount has provided radical Palestinians with the excuse to start violent riots. Several Israeli police officers have been injured in recent months by Palestinians throwing rocks in what the Arabs claim is the defense of the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Member of Knesset, Yechiel Hilik Bar, said, "I believe full equality on the Temple Mount will lead to Jews and Arabs living side by side." The Labor Party MK added that, according to this bill, the Waqf's official authority would not be harmed, but Muslims need to understand that Jews and Christians also have a right to pray there.
Several members of the U.S. Congress were in Jerusalem recently to prepare for the 4th annual celebration of the reunification of Jerusalem to be marked in Washington, D.C. next week. The event is hosted by the Congressional Israel Allies Caucus and focuses on the importance of keeping Jerusalem united. Several members of the Israeli Knesset are slated to attend the event, which stresses the urgent need to move the U.S. Embassy from Tel Aviv to the capital of Jerusalem, and works to dispel the concept of a Palestinian East Jerusalem. The director of the Knesset Christian Allies Caucus, Josh Reinstein, said that while there are so many leaders around the world working feverishly to divide Jerusalem, the members of the Congressional Israel Allies Caucus join together every year to celebrate its unity, which is why Reinstein is so excited that such a large delegation of MKs will be joining this year's commemorations in Washington.
The Israeli national basketball team, Maccabi Tel Aviv, has won its 6th EuroLeague title. Cheered on by nearly 10,000 Israeli fans who flew to Milan to watch the basketball finals, Maccabi Tel Aviv dominated Real Madrid by a final score of 98-86. Both the Israeli Prime Minister and President personally telephoned the team's manager to congratulate him on the victory.
And that concludes the news portion of our show. Stay tuned for Ask the Source with Josh Reinstein.
Hello and welcome to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein, and we're here once again in a beautiful day on our rooftop studio in Jerusalem. My guest today is Rabbi Ken Spiro, the host and head lecturer of Jerusalem U. Rabbi Spiro, thank you for being on the show.
Thanks for having me.
right, Phil, tell our viewers a little bit about what is Jerusalem U.
So Jerusalem U is an online educational platform. We've been around for a good few years. We're actually located right over here in the old city of Jerusalem. Our focus has been up until now creating basically video-based educational content, different courses for Jews, primarily college student age thereabout. But we've expanded our range now, and I specifically am responsible for basically doing educational content for the Christian community.
That's very interesting. You know, you're a Jewish organization teaching Jewish curriculum. Why are Christians so interested in it?
Well, obviously there's the shared heritage, the Judeo-Christian ethics, the shared history. Christianity literally comes out of Judaism. Jesus was Jewish. Israel's strongest supporters in the world today are that section of the evangelical Christian community that makes that connection. So my experience is with dealing with a lot of these people is that they're extremely interested and supportive and open. They don't necessarily have that much information, but they're a group of people that really wants to know a lot more and is very interested in what we have to share with them. And there's sadly very few religious Jews and rabbis especially who are willing to reach out to our Christian friends and try and educate them and share knowledge and information with them.
You recently got involved with this horrendous and offensive initiative called The Christ at the Checkpoint, which paints Jesus as a Palestinian suicide bomber. And you're speaking on behalf of Christians saying that this is actually ridiculous. Tell us a little bit about that.
So I didn't go to the actual conference, but I was at a seminar hosted by the B'nai B'rith and some Christians who are very active in counteracting this attempt to basically rewrite history, to paint Jesus as a Palestinian Arab, to redo the history that they are the indigenous inhabitants of the land of Israel and the Jewish people are recent comers to the land who've usurped the legitimate rights from them. It's an attempt to undermine what is one of the most important communities for support for Israel by literally rewriting the narrative. And this is where the information is so important, because the truth and the facts are the greatest weapons we have to counteract the lies that pervade not just that specific movement, Christ at the Checkpoints, but any university campus in America, and much of the media is infested with a virus of lies and falsehood that is just trying to rewrite the narrative to delegitimize the Jewish people's connection to the land of Israel. And anyone who knows the Bible and their history knows that the connection of the Jewish people to the land of Israel is extremely old and extremely deep.
You know, your Jerusalem U, is it just strictly entertainment, or is it actually a curriculum for universities?
So it's called Jerusalem U. It's not a university curriculum per se, although we do offer curriculums for American college students, but they're courses that contain multi-part video series dealing with different topics. For our Jewish students, we have things on popular psychology and Judaism 101. And for the Christians, we have a whole range of classes dealing with the history of Israel, the biblical connection, prophecy in the Bible, the end of days, and even very practical classes on the shared values that America has with Israel, Judeo-Christian ethics, and even a very practical class on how you can learn to literally counteract the false information. Like, how do you answer when such an issue comes up? What are the facts?
You see that on American campuses, there's an anti-Israel sentiment coming out. Why would university campuses be against the only free democracy in the Middle East?
Again, it just comes out of a combination of factors. It's probably like a PhD thesis. A lot of it is just a lot of misguided liberal intentions. American universities are the bastion of open liberal thinking. Some of it has to do with this guilt, we call it white liberal guilt, about the third world and what's going on. And you always notice, if you know the history of activism on university campuses, they always need a cause. When I was in university many years ago, it was like apartheid in South Africa. That's now gone. So they're looking for some injustice in the world. And obviously anyone looking with open eyes and objectively would see, as you said correctly, we're surrounded by 22 totalitarian states that have no free press, no free speech, no women's rights, no democracy, no free market capitalism. The only country that values freedom expression. Yet people don't see that. They just buy the propaganda. They believe that Israel is this apartheid dictator state, and they need something to, I hate to use the term crusade on, but to crusade on, and this is the cause. And on American university campuses, it's literally a virus. And having been on many of these campuses, you see that they don't even let you speak. They shut you down. They try and talk, they start yelling and booing and standing up and screaming. The facts aren't important, the truth isn't important. We have our cause, and we got to let the world know that this is what we're crusading for.
Where is all this propaganda on the university campuses coming from?
So it's a three-pronged attack. One is just, I would say, a lot of misguided liberal people needing a cause. Two is a concerted effort on the part of many Arab countries to pour money into this whole movement and educate people with propaganda. And the third is a big dose of this anti-Semitism. As Natan Sharansky, the head of the Jewish Agency, former prisoner of Zion, said, the 3 Ds, delegitimization, double standard, and demonization. When you say Israel has no right to exist, or you ignore what's going on in the rest of the world and only focus on Israel, or you turn the Jews into blood-sucking vampires, that's a sign that it's not legitimate, and there's a deep dose of very good old anti-Semitism mixed in with all of this, making it a very irrational and dangerous phenomenon.
Rabbi Spiro, there are literally tens of millions of people watching the show. What message do you have for our viewing audience?
So the message is what's going on here is it's a battle for truth. It's a battle really for righteousness, and the most important weapon we have is information. And what we're offering, the Israel course, is a very valuable tool in the arsenal to fight this battle. And if you're interested, you can look at our website, theisraelcourse.com, watch a short movie, and get a whole list of the different classes we're offering.
Thank you, Rabbi Spiro, for being on the show. And thank you for tuning in to Ask the Source. I'm your host, Josh Reinstein. Now back to the studio.
This is Jerusalem, Israel's capital city. It's an ancient and modern treasure that is beyond belief. There's a little bit of Israel in all of us. Come find the Israel in you.
Up next, shining light from Israel.
When I did my graduate studies at the Middle East Institute at Columbia University's School of International Affairs, I took many courses on the question of the Middle East conflict. Semester after semester, we studied the Middle East conflict as if it was the most complex conflict in the world, when in fact, it is probably the easiest conflict in the world to explain. It may be the hardest to solve, but it is the easiest to explain. In a nutshell, it's this. One side wants the other side dead. Israel wants to exist as a Jewish state and to live in peace. Israel also recognizes the right of Palestinians to have their own state and to live in peace. The problem, however, is that most Palestinians and many other Muslims and Arabs do not recognize the right of the Jewish state of Israel to exist. This has been true since 1947, when the United Nations voted to divide the land called Palestine into a Jewish state and an Arab state. The Jews accepted the United Nations partition, but no Arab or any other Muslim country accepted it. When British rule ended on May 15, 1948, the armies of all the neighboring Arab states, Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, Transjordan, and Egypt, attacked the one-day-old state of Israel in order to destroy it. But to the world's surprise, the little Jewish state survived. Then it happened again. In 1967, the dictator of Egypt, Gamal Abdel Nasser, announced his plan, in his words, to destroy Israel. He placed Egyptian troops on Israel's border, and armies of surrounding Arab countries were also mobilized to attack. However, Israel preemptively attacked Egypt and Syria. Israel did not attack Jordan and begged Jordan's king not to join the war. But he did. And only because of that did Israel take control of Jordanian land, specifically the West Bank of the Jordan River. Shortly after the war, the Arab states went to Khartoum, Sudan, and announced their famous 3 no's: no recognition, no peace, and no negotiations. What was Israel supposed to do? Well, one thing Israel did a little more than a decade later in 1978 was to give the entire Sinai Peninsula an area of land bigger than Israel itself and with oil, back to Egypt because Egypt, under new leadership, signed a peace agreement with Israel. So Israel gave land for the promise of peace with Egypt, and it has always been willing to do the same thing with the Palestinians. All the Palestinians have ever had to do is recognize Israel as a Jewish state and promise to live in peace with it. But when Israel has proposed trading land for peace, as it did in 2000, when it agreed to give the Palestinians a sovereign state in more than 95% of the West Bank and all of Gaza, the Palestinian leadership rejected the offer and instead responded by sending waves of suicide terrorists into Israel. Meanwhile, Palestinian radio, television, and school curricula remain filled with glorification of terrorists, demonization of Jews, and the daily repeated message that Israel should cease to exist. So it's not hard to explain the Middle East dispute. One side wants the other dead. And if it didn't, there would be peace. Please remember this. There has never been a state in the geographic area known as Palestine that was not Jewish. Israel is the third Jewish state to exist in that area. There was never an Arab state, never a Palestinian state, never a Muslim or any other state. That's the issue. Why can't the one Jewish state the size of El Salvador be allowed to exist? That is the Middle East problem. I'm Dennis Prager.
Anywhere else, this would be a vacation by a lake. But this is the Sea of Galilee. The wonders of Israel are beyond belief. There's a little bit of Israel in all of us. Come find the Israel in you.
Please stay tuned for the ICEJ report from the International Christian Embassy, Jerusalem.
Every year in spring, sirens sound throughout Israel and life comes to a complete stop for 2 minutes as Israelis around the country pause to remember the tragedy of the Holocaust. Israeli dignitaries and foreign leaders gather in the Warsaw Ghetto Square Memorial at Yad Vashem to honor the 6 million slain victims of the Holocaust.
I have with me today Ms. Susanna Kokkonen, the director of the Christian desk at Yad Vashem, and it's a great joy and a great pleasure to have you with us. Welcome on our show today.
Thank you.
Susanna, tell me, Yad Vashem made a strategic decision some years ago, which Yad Vashem, our listeners need to know that it's the biggest institution here in the land to commemorate the Holocaust. And they made a decision just a few years ago to establish a Christian desk here at Yad Vashem. This is a historic step for Yad Vashem, isn't it?
Well, yes, it is. Many Christians since the 1990s had been coming to Yad Vashem. We had movies like the Schindler's List coming out, and people were really interested in having a program at Yad Vashem when visiting. And there wasn't anything specifically for them. And so in 2006, in cooperation with the ICEJ, Yad Vashem established the Christian Friends of Yad Vashem, a Christian department here at Yad Vashem. And now we have programs for Christians, and we invite them to join us in all of the special events and commemorations, as well as to learn more about the Holocaust.
Well, to think that the institution which commemorates the biggest atrocity which we Christians did to the Jewish people, that they have a Christian desk, was it an easy decision for them to do that?
Well, it was a very big decision, so big in fact that they needed the permission of the Israeli Prime Minister. At the time it was Ehud Olmert, and he gladly gave it. knowing the ICEJ and the ICEJ's work. And so Yad Vashem was able to start this activity. Initially, nobody really knew what it was going to be. What precisely would this department be doing? But now it's becoming more and more a very established part of Yad Vashem's daily activity.
Again, I want to invite you to support Yad Vashem and the very important cause of this great institution. Become a blesser of Israel and become somebody who reaches to the very heart of the Jewish nation. The Bible says, I will bless those who bless thee. I will return the blessing which you bestow upon my people. And God promises a special blessing to us as we reach the wounded soul of Israel, which is found here at Yad Vashem, commemorating the death of more than 6 million Jews 70 years ago. Visit our website at www.icej.tv and become a blessing for Israel. May the Lord bless you richly here out of Zion.
Please consider supporting the work of the Christian Desk at Yad Vashem. Become a friend of Yad Vashem with a donation of $25. Adopt a tree commemorating the righteous among the nations for a $100 donation. Or for a $1,000 donation, help us to record the testimonies of Holocaust survivors from around the world.
What an exciting place to be, what an exciting place to visit. I'm talking to you about the land of Israel, the place where Jesus was born, and Jesus did his full ministry and went up to heaven. We'll come back one day to this very same land. Now you have the opportunity to come and visit this place in the summer tour 2014. This place is colorful, it's tasty, it opens the Bible in a new way, and it is very diverse. I will give you a small tour. Now, we're in the desert. The beach, culture, history, big city life, awesome food. Israel is not just camels, hummus, and desert. Israel is also modern society. And one of the examples is the city of Tel Aviv, having beautiful beaches like this. In the summertime, these beaches are packed, and you can enjoy also this beautiful beach when we come to the summer tour, to this exact same place. So come along the summer tour 2014 to enjoy the land of Israel.
That's all for this edition of Israel Now News. I'm Yochanan El-Rom.
And I'm Erin Viner, reporting from our studio in Jerusalem. Please join us again next week for all of your Israel updates.